I think this may be a strong contender for final form for keyboard nerds. You don't have to go too far down the rabbit hole in this hobby before you start to see boards that look like this. This is an Alice layout, or more correctly an Arisu layout, because it does have the dedicated arrows in the far right column of a 65%. It's niche, for sure. Probably not as much as a 40%, but still. I'm fortunate to have a pretty amazing example of this layout in-house today. This is the Vulcan and KBDFans Maja V2. It's in group buy right now, ending soon, but they were nice enough to extend the GB for us for a few days so I could do this video. Chassis here is aluminum, and this board is a heavy beast, around 2.2 kilos or almost 5 pounds. When I talk about cases having simple geometry and sounding a little flat about it, this is a great example of what I'm looking for. There's no underglow or polycarb sections, but the side profile is really nice here. These curves are gorgeous, nice rounded corners and wide soft bezel around the top chassis, great lines. We also have a PVD stainless steel weight bar in the bottom with a stainless badge in the center and a PVD brass weight inside as well. I realize you don't see any of this stuff when you're just sitting at the desk using the board, but this level of geometry and embellishment is what I'm looking for when I buy into a more expensive kit. This kit starts at $339, and that includes all the weights, which is honestly much lower than I'd anticipated. I thought this was going to be $500 easy. Because it's an ergo layout, we have this little dip in the lower edge where your thumbs rest, and they provide a walnut wrist rest here that's tapered the same way, so it fits right up against the board, looks very clean. This is hot swap only, south-facing Gateron sockets with per key RGB. It's gasket mount as well. We have 10 points with pour-on gaskets both in the top and bottom, and they have a daughter board inside here as well. It is USB-C, center mounted, really flush with the case, so do expect to have some connector visible. This prototype PCB is purple, but I expect black in the final version. Plate here is polycarb, very flexy. We have a pour-on sheet for the plate as well as a thinner sheet between the PCB and the lower case, and you can see the PVD brass weight in the bottom there. This does support PCB mount stabs, which I do not think are included in the kit. This prototype came with cherry stabs installed. Normally I would replace these, but whoever tuned these at KBDFans did a damn good job, so I'm leaving these alone. They sound great, and the return is really crispy. So we've got an 8-degree typing angle here, pretty much begs to be used with the wrist rest. It's a pretty striking layout too, as the middle of the alphas are rotated. We've got some separation to create some distance between your hands. I like this a lot, and I do like the fact that we have dedicated arrows here versus a true Alice layout, which is based off of 60%. Sure, there are numerous ways you could set up arrows on this board without having dedicated arrows, especially since we've got so much going on under our thumb that could serve as a function layer toggle, but I like having dedicated arrows there. On that note, you do have pretty limitless flexibility in setting this up to your specific needs, as it's both QMK and VIA compatible, and that's where you can get pretty creative with these keys right here. The really odd one is this key. I have a terrible old ingrained habit of hitting B with my right hand, which creates a challenge when I'm using a split board. That killed me on the Digma Rays. As I've tried to learn proper typing technique, I sometimes find myself hitting it with either hand. Obviously, I'm not the only one that does this. You technically can set this thing up with 2 Bs. Not every keycap set includes 2 Bs. A lot of GMK stuff does, but it is more on the rare side, so watch out for that. But you can set it to anything you like a layer toggle, which is how I'm using it here. Then you can decide what you want to do with your mods and your spaces. I opted to keep both space bars as space. When I'm typing, I generally only hit spacebar with my right hand, but that's not the case when I'm editing, and definitely not the case when I'm gaming. I was afraid this layout wouldn't be too great for gaming, but it actually is. Even using both as space bars, that still leaves 2 controls and 2 alts up for grabs. You've probably put this together by now, but one of the biggest challenges with this layout is finding compatible keycap sets. Normally you'll see people use shift keys or like something from the numpad in place of the space bars. You just have to pay really close attention when you're looking for keycap sets. This CAT 9009 set I'm using had everything except for the second B. The new Novel Keys PBT sets work great. With GMK, not always, but usually you'll have to grab an extra kit in addition to your base kit. So yeah, I think that speaks for itself. I wish every keyboard I owned sounded like this board. I don't even think the recorded sound test does it justice. For me, no mods required. I wouldn't change a thing. Typing feel is great as well. There's some nice flex here. Bottom out is nice and soft. I think the polycarb plate is definitely the move here. I wouldn't want to stiffen up this at all by going with a brass plate. So negatives, what would I change here? Honestly, not a lot. Like, Nothing, maybe. The USB connector sitting so flush with the case is basically it. The RGB doesn't add a lot for me either. I immediately disable it and forget it's even there, but that's pretty subjective. From the looks, the feel, the sound, I just really like this board. And for what it is, I don't think they're asking too much here. I could easily see this becoming my main everyday driver board. Sorry, Mark. I looked back recently at a lot of my custom keyboard coverage, and while I feel like the reviews themselves are solid, having a bunch of disconnected independent reviews doesn't really do a lot to help onboard or welcome new people into the custom keyboard space. So I've decided to build out some written content that'll answer some common questions and kind of function as a roadmap, and unlike video content, I can go back and edit that written content as the market changes to make sure it's always fresh. The first step to that is securing a domain name, and for that, I recommend Hover, the sponsor of today's video. One of the big things I like about Hover is that they only focus on domain names, so it gives me the security of having my hosting separate from my domain. That means as things grow or change over time, I can move freely to whatever hosting fits my needs without having to worry about going through an unlock process for my domain name. Like, my hosting needs may change, but my domain name, how people find me online, that's constant, and that's where the value lies. Hover also has over 400 domain extensions, so if .com feels a little dated, you can do something more unique like .tv or .tech or .live to really customize it for your brand. And a big thing having your own domain does for you professionally is it gives you a great looking email, like brian@badseedtech.com and not badseedtech at same email address everyone has.com. And right now you can save 10% off any of the 400 domain extensions they offer by going to hover.com/badseedtech. Big thanks to Hover for sponsoring today's video, and thank you so much for your time. I promise the next video is not a keyboard video. The one after it, probably, but there's just so much good stuff coming out right now. If you want to check out the new Novel Keys TKL offerings, the NK87, they just went in stock. You can watch that video right here, and I'd really encourage you to come by the private Discord for Patreon supporters. If you want to nerd out with some like-minded folks, you can check that out right here. That's it for today, and I will catch you all in the next one. Stay up.